Hi there, and welcome to the HDFS Career Podcast. My name is Dr. Lori Bullock, and I'm an assistant professor in human development and family studies at MSU. I teach several courses in the department, and one of them is HDFS 270, which introduces students to this major and to the field of family science. Quite often, students who are new to our major are not quite sure of the career options they have with a degree in human development and family studies. Some students know exactly what they want to do, and some students aren't quite sure and can sometimes feel overwhelmed. And there are other students who are in our major but plan to pursue a career in the healthcare field. These would be students who know that they want to be nurses or doctors or child life specialists, occupational therapists, and so on. The purpose of this podcast is to bring professionals on from many different areas. Each episode, I invite a professional from the community who has a background in HDFS or one that is similar to HDFS. I'm so excited you joined the podcast, and I hope today's episode will be helpful to you as you consider your career options. Hello, HDFS students and colleagues. I have a great guest for today's episode, and I'm really excited for you to meet her. Her name is Dr. Yijie Wang, and she is an assistant professor here in HDFS, and her focus is on ethnic racial minority youth with a developmental perspective. Dr. Wang completed her Ph.D. in Human Development and Family Science at the University of Texas at Austin in 2014. She then completed two postdoctoral trainings at the University of Texas and Fordham University. Dr. Wang joined the Department of Human Development and Family Studies here at MSU as an assistant professor in 2017. As I mentioned a minute ago, Dr. Wang's research interests center on ethnic racial minority youth with a developmental perspective. And I also want you to know that she specifically focuses on how socio-cultural processes like ethnic racial discrimination and socialization in various developmental settings influence minoritized youth outcomes such as psychological, academic, and biobehavioral outcomes. She is currently investigating the influence of multiple discrimination based on ethnicity, race, sexual orientation, and weight on youth outcomes. Dr. Wang has published 70 peer-reviewed articles in several research journals. She received the Rising Star Award from the American Psychological Science in 2019 and the Rising Star Research Award from the College of Social Science at MSU in 2023. Dr. Wang serves as a consulting editor for 5 journals, including Child Development, and has reviewed articles for numerous journals as an ad hoc peer reviewer. Dr. Wang is also a co-chair of the Ethnic Racial Issues Committee at the Society for Research and Child Development. Dr. Wang, thank you so much for joining the podcast today to share your career experiences. I'm really excited for you to have you here today and for our students to learn from your experiences. And I apologize for the dog barking. Sometimes we get that.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really glad to have the space to speak with you today.
Great. Yeah, I'm so happy to have you here. So I hope you enjoy this, and I know our students will get a lot out of it too. So my first question to you is, can you tell us a little bit about you and about your current work and the areas you focus on at work?
Sure, yeah. And thank you so much for such a nice introduction of my experience. Like you mentioned, I am an assistant professor in the HDFS department, specifically the diversity, youth, and family development concentration, so the DIAD area. And I'm particularly interested in youth development, especially those from minority backgrounds or marginalized groups. In some of my current work, like you mentioned, I'm specifically interested in the influence of socio-cultural factors like ethnic, racial, social discrimination, socialization, how it influences youth. I'm recently very interested in the influence of discrimination in adolescent sleep. So we have a project that we just completed collecting data from the participants in local schools, and we had the participants, high school students, to wear their sleep watch, which is a medical version of Fitbit, Apple Watch, and we have them wear the watch for 2 weeks. And kind of ask them questions about their experiences, so like discrimination, but also positive interactions they have with their peers at school. And we wanted to see how these daily experiences influence their sleep. And we've been like trying to look a lot into like the health aspects of the influence of discrimination and also among minoritized youth population. Yeah, that's about it for my current work.
That's great. That's so interesting and really important work too, because we know already some areas where discrimination experiences can influence youth and can influence people, but then to also take a look at how it affects people physically and affects their health, and to know that and to be able to bring attention to that. That's just so important.
Yeah, thank you. There's definitely a lot of emerging research to look at the health disparities that often disadvantage minoritized youth. And it's kind of a question that's being like intriguing to researchers, how these social experiences of discrimination get under the skin to influence people's health.
Yeah, it definitely is. I think it's important to understand those so we can hopefully help some of those other areas too. I mean, we definitely want to target those issues anyways, and then to, I think, raise awareness about the health aspects. I think hopefully will help raise that more, and interest in it, and that issue also.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Yeah. So I was wondering, this wasn't on the list of questions I sent you, but I know that you have a research lab that was a diversity and adolescence lab. So these are the example that you told us are an example of the kind of studies that you conduct in your lab.
Yeah, and so me and my postdocs and graduate students, and some also including undergraduate students helping. So if anyone's interested in getting involved, just feel free to reach out and let me know.
That's great to know. Yeah, because our students often will say, how do I get connected with research? And so knowing that this is an avenue, hopefully some of them will reach out and
Mm-hmm.
connect with you.
Yeah, like we have had many undergraduate students, like they've been so creative and innovative with for the project, and then they have been helping with designing recruitment videos, posters, and then working with high school students. They've been really instrumental and lots of fun, adding lots of fun to the research team.
Yeah, that's great. And they get great experience and add their creativity to it, and, start to understand how they can use their creativity in really great ways
Yeah.
past school. So this is awesome. I'm glad that that they get to connect with you that way.
Yeah.
And like you said, become a really instrumental part of it. That's
Mhm.
awesome.
Mhm.
Can you talk a little bit about what made you choose this career path? Did you always know you wanted to be a professor or do research?
Yeah, that's such a great question. That got me thinking. I felt like um, I definitely did not start knowing that I want to be a professor. And it also it's I would say it's a very gradual process of how I realized that this is something that I want to work on for my career. And so I grew up in China, and I did my bachelor undergraduate education in China, Peking University. And so after I got my bachelor degree, I applied for a PhD program in the US. So I got accepted by UT Austin. So at that time, my goal is really to just, I wanted to see the world, what it is like. And education is kind of like the only way that would, like take me outside of my my country and the environment that I live. And so when I first arrived in the US and in my PhD program, it was mostly I wanted to like have more fun, and to know like what it is like to be outside of my country. And it is really when I was doing my PhD education and program, that I realized that I really enjoyed the process of doing research. I enjoyed asking questions, challenging myself, and finding solutions to a problem. And so that kind of it's kind of like a gradual process. I work on papers. I enjoyed writing and identifying like gaps in the literature. And then I got reviews for my manuscript. I enjoyed answering questions from the reviewers. I felt like I success at a different level. And so that gradual process. And then I thought about, I really enjoyed thinking about where I want to go, what kind of research I want to do in a more bigger picture way. And I found myself really liking this. Then I decided, okay, maybe I would do a postdoc. And I ended up doing 2 postdocs and finding a faculty position. So it's kind of like more of an exploration, gradual process of finding my career.
Oh, that's great. That's great to hear. So did you have along the way like some mentors and some people kind of guiding and helping you, and so that you could maybe bounce ideas of directions to go for your
Mhm.
career?
Yeah, definitely. My advisors are, I wouldn't be able to make it where I am today without my advisors. So they really set the example of what it is like to be in academia, and like seeing this is how they work, how they live, and, like both professionally and personally, that I thought this is the life that I like. And also they've been like giving lots of advice of what I need to succeed in the field, what I need to do. It's kind of knowing that this is what I need to do, this is what I will be like, that kind of helped me making my mind that um, uh, this is where I want to kind of focus in my future career.
All right, good. Yeah, that's helpful then. So it sounds like both the advice that they gave and then just kind of seeing, how they did their work, how they related to students, and like you said, how they live, kind
Yeah,
of was like you saw a fit with yourself.
yeah, there's lots of role modeling.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that happens a lot of times along the way with whether people want to go into academia or in other areas too, that's looking for those kinds of role models,
Mm-hmm,
I think
mm-hmm.
can be helpful. Yeah. So that's good to know. Really interesting experiences that you had. Um, so my next question is, do you have any advice for students who might be interested in pursuing a graduate degree? What should they keep in mind as they transition from undergraduate to graduate level courses? Do you have anything to offer
Mm-hmm.
about that?
So, I think first is to figure out their goals, but like I said, sometimes like me, I don't like I figure out my goals along the way. So that's kind of where my advice comes from, is to be really engaged with research. I think getting in-depth experiences about research, what it is like, what it takes, and whether students like each step of research or not, would be really important. So in-depth research experience, when I talk about this would involve first being involved or having contact or being connected with the community or participants you're interested in working with, and like learning about their experiences and see if these are the things that you really want to study, because we're doing social science, so it's like really about um, the social aspects or the human beings, and then also to be get more in-depth experiences with the I would say almost every aspects of research, like literature review, reading articles. I tell my students to read articles all the time. It's like a big part of PhD training and also like in academia, and then like working with the data, and see like whether it is qualitative or quantitative or mixed methods, working with the data, see if this is the thing that you enjoy doing. Do you enjoy reading the stories of from your participants? Do you enjoy building models and identifying relationships? And then also try writing. Like again, writing is another big important aspect of being in academia, and so we write all the time. So if see if this is something that a student would like. I think having these in-depth experiences also help students to, as they start transition into grad school. I think in grad school, there's still a lot of exploration of the topics they want to study, or like the program of research they want to build. But kind of knowing what activities you're getting yourself into would be really helpful.
Yeah, so definitely asking, they should ask questions along the way, like maybe as an undergrad, talk to graduate students, students who are graduate students now, as well as faculty members about, what is toughest about that transition from undergrad to graduate and to prepare themselves.
Yeah, to know like what is ahead.
Yeah, yep. Be somewhat prepared. So in some ways you can't be, in some ways you can. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so that's good to know.
Mm.
Can you talk a little bit about networking and building connections? You talked about definitely connecting with your mentors as you're going through grad school. But what kind of organizational or professional networks do you connect with also? And how has that helped you along the way?
Yeah, that's such a great question. Because I felt like in academia, a lot of the times we work in solidarity. So we work in our office in front of the computer all the time, and having the networks and support in some social connections is really will really help with like your mental well-being, but also with the work that we do. And I would say like going to conferences and knowing people, and seeking out mentors are really important. When I was in grad school, I started attending conferences, and SRCD, which is Society for Research in Child Development, is my academic home. And I got connected with lots of great scholars in Asian Caucus, which is kind of like the group where who I identify with. And I got to know my postdoc mentor there. I got to know like people I write papers with there. There's lots of substantive or tangential support that I receive to grow as a scholar, but also I got to I got to know more, just like receives a lot more like mentoring advice and support, and like know like what academia is like outside of UT Austin, my little department, my little building, and that's really important. And also as um racial minority, and then especially I'm an international student, sometimes the kind of support that I can get within the my department or university is limited. And knowing that there are so many scholars that I share similar backgrounds or experiences are out there, and who I can talk to, seek advice whenever I need to, is really helpful.
I'm glad you brought that up because, we do have many international students also, undergraduates within our department and then also definitely at MSU in general. And so I'm glad you mentioned that about, finding sources of support that maybe the university may or may not provide, and just knowing that they might not. And so who are some people that you can reach out to that you feel comfortable with, that you share some experiences with, and that they can guide you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I felt like this is also very important to kind of just to know what I am like in academia, and finding similar people and knowing, okay, this is what I can be like, is again like finding role models are uh, from people who are similar with my background is very important.
Yeah, definitely. I could see that. So I'm
Mhm.
glad you raised that point.
Mhm.
Good for our students to know that if they're feeling alone, that and they're an international student, that there are ways that they can connect, and so hopefully
Yeah.
they can hear some of your suggestions in that.
Mhm.
Great. Um, so the one of the last questions I have is that knowing what you know now, what do you wish you had known like early in college or earlier in your career?
Um, so I would say, I wish I had more hands-on experience with the communities I'm interested in, doing research with. I wish I had more experience or like more community engagement, or involvement, when I was undergrad or graduate student. I felt like I had so much. It was until when I started collecting data and talking to my participants, I realized that how little I know about them. And having that kind of like a experiential learning process, and also knowing what is really needed from the community really helps with my research. And also like identifying goals and directions for where I want to go. Um, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Great to know. Yeah. Identifying goals and directions, knowing where you want to go, even though if it changes along the way, but just having a general direction. But then, like you mentioned, that community engagement piece, it sounds like that would be an important kind of a step or something to do if somebody is interested in going to grad school. And so trying to reach out. And luckily here at MSU, we have the Center for Community Engaged Learning. So, that might help if a student is here. So maybe looking for some type of similar like sources of or resources at other universities too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
great. All right. Or any other, are there other ways that students can reach out to communities and or to get a better sense of who they are and
Mm-hmm.
and things
Mm-hmm.
like that?
So, I think working with faculty on their research projects, and especially like research project that involves community engagement, like data collection, or some other um, activities that involves, like talking to your community members, and knowing, learning about their experiences, would be really helpful. Like even just engage with like community engagement related type of research would also help.
Yeah,
And we have so many faculty does that.
we do. We do definitely in our department. Okay, that's great advice. Thank you for that. And so my last question is it okay if students contact you? You kind of mentioned it earlier, but is it okay if they contact you if they have questions about your career or possibly about your lab?
Yeah, of course. I always welcome students reaching out. And I think one thing that I forgot to mention for the building up social connections and networking is that when I was a student, I always had the concern like, does the faculty mentor or like more senior faculty would think I'm bothering them, or is it okay for me to reach out? Um, I felt like I also always had that kind of concern. But then I realized a bit after I'm a faculty now, and I realized how much I learn from students. And I really enjoyed having conversations with students, and they have so much to contribute, to offer. And especially, I think as student, sometimes our perspectives are very different from a faculty. And when I was a student, I was a little bit kind of concerned. What if I'm not knowing this? Would I say something stupid? But as a faculty, I think now I see how much I appreciate learning these different perspectives and then just having students reaching out. Yeah, I would encourage students to like just don't hesitate. If you wanted to learn something from the professors, just reach out.
I'm so glad you said that because I do think do that. I hear from students that they might feel intimidated or just, kind of afraid to approach a faculty member. Or like, when I was their age, I was very shy too. And so, yeah, I definitely would have had a hard time approaching one. And so I'm really glad that you mentioned that because it is true. We all love talking with students and hearing from them. And like you said, hearing their ideas, they're so creative. Uh,
Yeah.
so yes, I'm really glad you mentioned that. That's
Mm-hmm.
really important.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Um, well, so yeah, your contact information I'll put in the description for the episode, so students will be able to contact you that way. But it's been great having you on today's podcast. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day today to share your experiences.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I felt like it's also get me thinking about like reflecting on my experiences, and it's a lot of fun.
It is. It is. Great.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Mhm.
Career journey, her research, and the wonderful advice she had if you're interested in grad school. As I mentioned at the end of the interview, you can find Dr. Wang's contact information in the episode description. She would be happy to answer any questions you may have about the information she provided today about her career, grad school, and the type of research that she pursues. Please join me again soon as for more interviews as I talk with more professionals to give you an idea of the types of options that you have available to you as you complete your degree in HDFS. Thank you for joining and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you again for listening to today's episode of the HDFS Career Podcast. I hope you enjoyed meeting Dr. Yijie Wang and learning about her exciting career journey and about the Thank you for listening to today's episode of the HDFS Career Podcast. I hope you enjoyed meeting Dr. Yijie Wang and hearing about her career journey and the advice that she had to give about graduate school. As I mentioned at the end of the interview, you can find Dr. Wang's contact information in the episode description. She would be happy to answer any questions you may have. Please join me again soon as I interview more professionals to give you a better idea of the types of options you have as you complete your degree in HDFS. I hope you have a great day.